A week ago today, we lost the legend, Heisman Trophy winner Billy Cannon. This is the only statue of him in Baton Rouge. It's on East State Street at Tiger Manor, but just a half mile away from here at LSU, hopefully this football season, there will be a statue commemorating all that he has done for the LSU football program. 2.5 years ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing him about his new book. He was magnetic, inspiring, candid, and he made me feel like we had been friends for decades. He had that magic about him, not only on the gridiron, but tackling the highs and lows of life.
He stands on his own 28. He gets a pass from center. He boots it and gets another nice kick away going way downfield. Billy Cannon watches it bounce. He takes it on his own 11. He comes back upfield to the 15, stumbles momentarily. He's at the 20, running hard at the 25, gets away from one man to 30. Still runs at 25, at the 35, the 25. He's down to the 50. He's in the 40, 40. He's in the 10, the 5. He scores!
At 79 years old, Billy Cannon's legendary punt return against Ole Miss on Halloween night 1959 is still considered by many college football historians as the greatest play ever. But he says even that was not his greatest moment.
That was great, don't get me wrong. But being a part of a team, I was on the last boxing team at Estroma. I was in the 4th grade. And on Friday night, I could sign in and go to the matches there at the Estroma gym. And that stands out as one of my fondest memories. The first time I was ever a part of a team.
On Estroma's football team, the sports world took note. All of the best colleges recruited him. He picked LSU. 60 years later, he's still considered one of the greatest Tigers of all time.
Tiger Rag did a survey of the 150 most influential athletes that ever came out of LSU. Guess who was #1? Oh yeah, not Shaq O'Neal, not Pistol Pete, not Dale Brown, Billy Cannon #1.
For decades, publishers, writers, and fans begged him to write a book. He finally did it with the help of trusted author and friend, Charles de Gravelle. What's your takeaway from the 126 hours that you spent with Billy, all the stories that you heard, writing the book? What's your takeaway?
Really broadly, people are complicated. People are complicated. And when he was everybody's hero, they really didn't know him. And when he was everybody's down in the gutter guy that they were kicking on him, nobody really knew him. Now they can know who he is.
He's LSU's All-American and only Heisman Trophy winner, #1 draft pick in the pros, and 2-time AFL Championship MVP. Years after the pros, he went to prison. Few people have risen so high and fallen so low. What was the valley?
Obviously, the
prison.
counterfeiting, going to prison.
Was it the crime or was it the punishment?
Both, because I can't split them. And just the stupidity of me doing that.
Despite playing pro football 11 years and having a thriving orthodontic practice, Dr. Cannon had big money problems. Not due to gambling like the press reported, but real estate.
I got locked into a situation. I had bought a lot of raw land, and I had overbought. And of course, banks had started collapsing. The economy took a nosedive, and John Stiglitz came, this is the way out. And I fought it off until I knew the banks were going to come. And I yielded, he printed it, and he was supposed to handle it. But he didn't handle it very well.
Billy Cannon had $50 million in counterfeit $100 bills, enough, he says, to fill 7 ice chests.
I had something buried there by the office. And I wasn't supposed to touch it. All of a sudden, here's all this money. What do you do with it? You can't leave it in the office.
Right.
You can't leave it in the car. What do you do with it?
What'd you do with it?
I buried it. I should have burned it all. But and I thought about that 3 or 4 times, and never did do it.
Nearly 30 federal investigators descended on Baton Rouge and followed Billy for months. When they finally arrested him, he confessed.
When something like that happens in your career, you find out who your friends are.
He spent 3 years in federal prison for that counterfeiting scheme. After getting out, the sports legend was shunned by most. He almost withdrew too. Then one day, he went back to prison voluntarily to work at Angola. He thought he'd stay maybe a year. He stayed more than 20. He reformed the entire prison medical program, as former Warden Burl Cain was improving the rest.
Being part of his team to help change it has been rewarding, been fun.
Having lived on both sides of the razor wire, Dr. Cannon and the inmates could relate. He ministered and empathized with them.
The one I hear the most is, Doc, when I went out that night, I didn't plan to kill anybody. But we got in an argument, and he drew his gun, and I drew mine. He's dead, and I just soon be dead because I'm here the rest of my life. When I got to Angola, within the first 6 months, the old hard boots, security officers, Cannon, you got too much sympathy for these convicts. And I looked at him and I said, what I have for them is not sympathy, it's empathy. I can understand how a man will put himself in that position. I said, now, to where one night, one day, one event can make you be locked up for the rest of your life.
A guy that's been in prison that ministers to prisoners, and who was like everybody's All-American, you know, just hung the moon, bow down, worship, and who's a guy who's got so much confidence, but who is also humble at the same time. Nothing turns his head in terms of like fame and stuff. You ask him about the glory days, he'll tell you how great the other people were. Wow. You know, and he was the best. He was the best, once in a generation athlete.
He's a hero who fell from grace, but rose to find redemption. Is there a lesson in here?
Take the high ground.
Take the high ground.
Every time. And my daddy always had a great saying. It's not how high the peak, it's not how low the valley. It's how far across this damn valley we're in.